Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to this special episode of the Traversing the Stars podcast. Today's special guest is BJ McDonnell. You know him as the director behind many of the music videos from Slayer. He's now directing Studio 666, starring the Foo Fighters. Now come join us as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. McDonnell. Thank you so much for coming to the Traversing the Stars podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
It's definitely my pleasure. I got to see Studio 666, and it was really fun, and it's a pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah, we had a blast making it. Let's chat.
Yes, indeed. So I always start off with a question about inspiration. So I want to know what inspired you to get into film and who were your earliest influences.
So, I mean, it came from a young age. My grandfather was an actor, and his name was Leif Erikson. And I used to go to film sets with him as a kid. You know, he would take me around. So it kind of got in my interest to start doing, like me and my buddies would run around with video cameras and make stupid like action movies in our backyard, like blowing up our GI Joes and doing all that stuff. So he kind of, my grandfather kind of opened the doors, knowing that you could, make a career in this. And so, later on in life, I actually quit doing that, joined a punk band, tried to do the punk band thing for a while. Yeah. And when that went down the tubes, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to make this happen. I'm going to go to LA and get into films. So I went to film school, which, was great for what I needed, I guess. But when I started working as a grip on sets with some friends that helped me get like my foot in the door. And I always wanted to direct, but I kind of steered into camera operating. I really got like into wanting to be a part of that, to like whatever it was I was doing, as a grip, I felt like I wasn't showing anything on film and I'd see the work that we did. So I felt like as a camera operator, I was the one seeing it first. And then that what the audience would see is my work.
Right.
So I got really into that, and it kind of took me off the directing path for a while. And I'm glad it did, because it actually taught me more about directing, with working closely with directors, with working with actors, and cinematographers and things like that. And then I finally got started going back for the directing thing after, I was like, all right, I've done a lot of movies here as a camera operator. Let's try to go back to what I came to LA for. So here we are.
I mean, you're the camera operator for some really high profile pictures, Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, Shazam. I mean, those are huge projects that you were camera operated for. What did the process of being a camera operator on those films teach you about directing?
Well, it's funny because like I only like Shazam, I was the camera operator on that, the whole thing. Age of Ultron, I came in and did the reshoots, and the same thing with Ant-Man, I did the reshoots. They just give you, IMDb sometimes will give you credits and say like, you were the, operator on this and that. So like, technically I wasn't the full-time operator on those two movies. Shazam, yes. But like I have a big resume of a lot of like films that I am the a camera operator on. For me, working with these filmmakers and people, I've taken a lot of like the good and the bad, what works, what doesn't work. I've kind of learned on each experience what one director will do to get a performance, or what he needs, or how to accomplish a certain effect or anything like that. And I take that into my own account and use that for my abilities as a director also. Again, it's the best film school being on a movie set you can possibly get. And you don't have to pay or go into debt at USC or UCLA. I'm not bumming anybody out that's going to those schools, but I mean, honestly, it's like, I feel like being on a film set, you really gain more knowledge if you want to be a crew member. Right. As a producer and things like that, all the paperwork stuff, that's not my wheelhouse. So yeah, probably film school is good to teach you that. But I learned a lot just being on set, working on these movies and knowing what works, what doesn't work. And I would take all these experiences and time, the time it would take to set up shots, or what a blood gag would be, how long it would take for that, how to multitask and make your times work for the movie, and your day, how to like utilize time in your day, and where, you have to put stuff. So that's really what I kind of took working with all these people, and I still do that. I still am a camera operator also. I still do it. And I still tell you right now, I've been doing this for 2 decades and I still learn.
Now, without going to any specifics of specific directors, you're saying you learn things that work, things that don't work. What do you find that is consistent when something doesn't work of what's happening on set?
Sometimes it's just like, if someone doesn't take into account, like I see it a lot with like, especially in horror films, if you have a gag that has to work, like blood gags and things like that, or there's a certain makeup that has to be done on an actor. It takes like 5 hours to make like a prosthetic happen. Sometimes I've seen where, you don't utilize the time right. You kind of lose your day because we're waiting around for like the actor to show up because of the makeup. It's not the makeup people's fault. It's just sometimes the days aren't as planned as they should be.
Mm.
It's those kind of things that you learn. And then you learn like, okay, well, this actor has to go 4 hours into makeup. So before the 4 hours into makeup, we're going to shoot this stuff over here. And
Yeah.
then we'll be ready for him when he comes over here. And some, the good ones actually plan accordingly, but I've been on sets where it doesn't.
So does it just when something is not planned properly and time is wasted like that, is it just almost like a virus on set? Does it ever just kind of bring it down? Is it just money waste?
I think, to be honest, as a director, time is your worst enemy. And watching the clock tick is the hardest thing you have to do to make sure you get what you want through your day.
Mm.
And so time management is very important to what you need to do. And like, if it's not managed right, you lose out on certain things you could have had in your film.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying. Like when it comes down to that, the time that, that's when I'm directing, I'm constantly looking at my watch. Like just go, all right, what are we doing? Okay. How we got this much time for that? Okay, cool. I'm very aware of how timing works, on film sets. So I take an account to the good and the bads. It doesn't, it just depends also on set, like people's moods too. Like someone's demeanor can also like poison the well when it comes to being on a set. Now, and what I've learned with a lot of great directors is that even when you're stressed out, you got to try to stay as positive as you can, because once you start showing that negativity on set, you can feel it kind of just go through the crew. You got to really stay positive as much as you can, and I think it's important.
So you also directed in 2015 a music video for Slayer called Repentless.
Mm-hmm.
The video was viewed 37 million times. It won a Loudwire 5th Annual Music Award for Best Metal Video. So when you're directing a music video, is the basics of directing something like that the same as a film, or is there certain things that need to be adjusted or evolved from music video to film?
For me, the music videos that I've wrote and directed, like especially the Slayer ones, I always try to make sure that there's a storyline to it. And that's what makes it a little bit harder, because you are putting in effects and you have to get performance and emotion, and also, showing the band what they're doing and playing. That's what I differentiate with a lot of the music videos that I like to do. The thing that's different with music videos is just budgets are totally different. So you really, and especially nowadays, like years ago, you used to get like $1 million budgets for a music video. And like nowadays, you're lucky to get 10 grand. You know what I mean? And that's I'm not even joking when I say that. And so so the Slayer videos had a bit more of a budget because they were Slayer. And each one, I think, I'll throw a number. It's probably I think we had like 30,000 for each video, which still goes super fast when you got to get the location, you got to pay for permits. We have makeup and gore effects. We got to rent the camera. I got a crane come in. I got a playback person. I got makeup people. It's just like, that money just is gone so quick. So you really try to bring in the people that you've known for a long time, that you trust and you work with, to make it go by as fast as possible. And again, timing, you figure it out. I always come in with a full on, like even music videos, I have a full on template of what we're doing. I have a shot list, and I make sure I know exactly where we're going to go on the day, to make sure that we get as much out of our day as possible. And that the crew people that are working with me know what's going on too, and what I'm thinking in my head, which gives them the opportunity to plan accordingly.
One thing I loved about the Repentless video is the same thing I loved about Studio 666. We'll get to in just one moment. There's such a wonderful, beautiful gore content in those parts that are really highly enjoyable. I mean, that's just part of the fun of making not only Studio 666, like I said, which we'll get to in a moment, but also something like Repentless, that you just got to indulge on this wonderful, just gore quotient.
It's funny because with the Repentless video and the Slayer stuff, I was, when I had the meeting with the guys, I said, look, I've seen all the Slayer videos and I'm a huge fan, but I don't think there's a representation of what I would want to do or what I feel a real Slayer video is. Because when I think of Slayer, I think of the box art, I think of the imagery, I think of the lyrics. So I'm like, there's no more MTV. We have YouTube and we have these different outlets for music videos nowadays. So let's actually make a Slayer video that I think says Slayer. And that's why I wrote such a graphically gnarly video. And it was only the one video at the time. And once that came out and they, it went bonkers over the internet, people loved it. Then Gerardo from Nuclear Blast called me and goes, all right, we're going to make a storyline. We're going to do 2 more videos, and let's do a prequel and a sequel. So I took the Repentless video, then wrote a storyline for the rest of the whole thing, which equals out the 3 videos. And so, and I wanted blood and gore and everything in that. I felt like that's what we needed, and it needed to be fast paced. And each video is a bit different. Like the Repentless video is a full on riot. The You Against You video is basically like my version of a John Wick film. And then You Against You. I mean, the Pride and Prejudice and the Snow one is like more of a dramatic, like end of story piece that kind of wraps up what was happening and why this person went on the journey that they did. So it's kind of like each one had a different thing with no dialogue. It was all through emotions and through the music of Slayer.
It was so much fun to like, much as I enjoyed the song, you could almost turn off the music and just understand the story without any audio whatsoever. It was in the Repellents video. It was very clear and it was very well done. And yeah, no, so welcome. You did a fantastic job. So Thanks. Going to Studio 666, which is so much fun to watch. For those listeners who don't know, it's the Foo Fighters movie, which is kind of like, I don't know the right word, almost like a horror mockumentary of a audio album that's about to come out. But it was so well done. So how did you get involved with Studio 666? And what were the early discussions like between you and Foo Fighters about how you were going to go about creating your visions for this movie?
So I had met Dave Grohl working with my buddy Brandon Truss on their music video for Run, where they're all in old age makeup and they're in this house and they just kind of all go crazy. And that's when I first met them. Then, later on, like down the road, Dave decided he wanted to do this movie, and he was working with two other friends of mine that actually are producers, Jim Rhoda and John Ramsey. And he said, look, I want to do this movie, and let's talk about getting a horror director in here. They're like, you seen this? Actually, I believe have you seen the Slayer videos? And he's like, oh yeah, no, well, BJ worked on the Run video. He's like, oh, bring him, let's send him my idea. So they sent me his idea, which is a basic idea of what the movie is.
Yeah.
I wrote kind of like what I wanted to put involved into it, like, put like more like in-depth story of like the past band and added a little more like horror element to what he had. Made a lookbook, sent it back. We had a meeting. We talked about, the films that we liked and things that we grew up loving, the vibe of the film. We're trying to go for an 80s fun movie, not like some crazy super duper horror, like
right
in your face. We're going for more of a fun vibe and more of the band vibe.
Yeah.
And that's what we were set out to do. Fun kills, not like super serious kills,
Right.
Expecting to go to this movie, seeing The Witch or Hereditary and things like that. Well, then maybe not the movie for you, but you're going to see like Friday the 13th or some kind of vibe like that. That's what we set out for. So that's how it came about, and then Tony Gardner, who was the effects guy in the Slayer videos, also did the Run videos. So it's just it was kind of a family of people who knew each other. So it was a very comfortable situation. So that's how it all came about. And then we just started going into it.
It's kind of fun that you mentioned Friday the 13th, because there's definitely a scene in Studio 666. I don't want to spoil it too much. That reminds me a lot of the Friday the 13th scene with the bed. And I was wondering if that was a direct connection you were making from your movie to that scene with the bed, which it's just so classic.
Yeah, I mean, that was there's a lot of hidden Easter eggs for the true horror fans out there when they're watching the movie. Honestly, like you'll see just shots that don't even sit, they're not like, they're just shots that actually are real throwbacks to the movies that I love and the movies that Dave loved and things like we talked about, even down to the fonts of certain things. It's like very John Carpenter, and like, we just wanted to make sure that there was a good nod to the people that, maybe they're horror fans, maybe they're not Foo Fighters fans, but they get to see stuff and they go, oh my God, there's a shot from The Burning, or oh my God, those things look like the creatures from The Fog, or that was really what my intentions were. Like that scene you're talking about, I wanted to try to beat the scene from Nightmare on Elm Street with Johnny Depp.
Yes.
With the amount of what we had, that was my goal. I don't know if we beat that because they did. I mean, that was like pretty amazing in Nightmare on Elm Street, but we damn sure tried to do it.
It's a memorable scene. Like I said, without ruining it, I can't ruin anything, so I don't say what happens in it. But it's a kick-ass scene. I watched it. I was like, holy shit, he's going there.
after that scene, because we shot that in the house, like the beginning of it. We shot that scene, and then we realized we had to actually, what we were going to do if we did what we did would actually ruin that part of the house. So we had to build that like a 3-wall version of that out in a parking lot at the house that we were shooting at, because it was so gnarly. And at the end of the day, when we ended up, like when we were done shooting, as I was walking down the hill of Encino to my car, there was a massive river of just blood, like going on the roads of Encino past like all these $1 million mansions and stuff. And it was kind of like, yeah, I think we won.
And I mean, like I said, part of the fun is that you get to see the Foo Fighters try acting. And these guys are definitely not professional actors. They're obviously a very kick-ass band. So what was part of the fun and part of the complication of having the non-trained actors in the movie? Did that make things difficult, or was that just part of the fun seeing because that is part of the humor, seeing David Grohl and all of them doing these roles?
And that again, that goes back to the old school band films. Look, let's be honest, the Beatles were not great actors.
Mm,
No offense, but the Monkees and like all these, they weren't. It was just like that's what it was. And so we
right,
knew going in, we're like, dude, we're going for the same thing. We're not going for Oscars here. Like
right,
it's
right,
like I've seen like different people talking like, well, the acting is so. I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be like those movies. That's what we're going for. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
That's what we were trying to do. And that was the beauty of it, in my opinion, was getting to play around with the guys and like, having the script, but saying, hey guys, this is, you guys are playing yourselves. So just here's the plot of what's happening in the scene. Make sure we hit those notes, but
Mm.
you guys be you guys play yourselves and say what you would say to each other. And that we gave kind of a freedom of that, which made everything so much more fun. And the guys got into it way more. And they were so happy that they could just kind of like, just be themselves. And that was the charm of the whole thing, and that's what we went for. Are we going to win Oscars? No, but I'm happy because we made old school band movie.
Right. I mean, I think that's why it works. I mean, because David Grohl, whose reputation is being the super nice guy, gets to not be the nice guy. And I think one of the more fun characters in the entire movie, surprisingly, it was Pat Smear, who just,
he's awesome, right?
yeah, just how he did his role, this kind of like this no matter what happened, just completely always oddly happy about the situation. It's just perfect.
Yeah, he's kind of just the flow a bit. And it's kind of
right.
have a show and be like, hey guys, what's up? Okay. And like, that's just kind of how he is. And he just, he seems like he's always pretty much a happy guy. So what you see on the screen is Pat Smear.
Really? Because I wasn't sure that was like how you just wrote his character. That really is the guy.
I mean, we really, when it came down to this movie, each in the script, it was a reflection on each person's personality. Like it was written for their personality. So what you see is really what you get. I mean, look, it's all a bit skewed a bit because we're doing a movie about a,
Right.
and demonic possessions. But, basically we try to touch on everybody's personalities and let them play themselves. So people got a sense of who these people really are and kind of in real life, given that they would be stuck in this horrible situation.
Right. I don't think David Grohl is actually killing people. Hopefully not. Allegedly not killing people.
I'm not seeing tonight. I hope it doesn't kill me.
Right. So when you're making the film and you have the actors doing their scenes, did you feel that you had to like, are you matching the feel of the album that they're making in the actual movie in the writing? Was that kind of like an important thing to kind of match a tone?
It was more Dave kind of flowing with the tone of what he was trying to teach the band, because honestly, what it came out in the movies, the band just wants to go home. Really and truly, like they want to make a good album, but what happens then when Dave finally gets his inspiration is now he's kind of locked them in, and it just keeps going and going and going, and they're just getting tired of it. Dave, if you watch through the progression, even through makeup, you'll see that his eyes get a little, like he starts getting a little bit more like the bags under the eyes, a little bit more worn out, a little more demonic. You can, if you watch really closely in the makeup, you'll see that like it's very subtle all the way up to the very end of the film. So it's really more about him dragging his band along. And it's also about basically, he just found some other band's music in the basement that was evil, and he just stole it, and he was the, he's the new vessel, but it's kind of like, you just stole somebody else's music.
So as someone who once upon a time had a punk band or worked in a punk band, does that give you a better understanding of how to shoot a movie or music video like this, and how a band would interact and how it would be staged and all that?
I think it helps me with the language of working with bands, knowing like kind of like having the experience of my past stuff. Cause I did tours, I recorded albums, I did all the same stuff. I toured in a van with my, band members for like 5 years. So I get the van stuff, then it's funny because the van in the movie is their old tour van. It's like,
Oh yeah.
that's what they toured in, like in the beginning. So all of it's like pretty legit, but I think I just have a language that helps me when it comes to working with rock and rollers and people like that, because I've actually been in those situations. I've been in the situation when you're trying to make a song and the bandmates are kind of like, or like you're kind of like there's friction or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been in the situation. So again, I think that helps me, I have the language of working with bandmates, and I know what it takes and I know what they're going through.
And the movie also has some really kick-ass cameos. The bigger one I'm going to get to in just a moment, but two that were impressive is you got Whitney Cummings and Will Forte. Now, once again, who are both well known for their comedy chops that they've got there. So how did they get involved in the film?
So Whitney knew Dave already, and in the script, we kind of figured that her character was perfect for Whitney. Will Forte, I met on MacGruber years ago because I was camera operator on that movie, and so we've been friends ever since. So that was kind of like me bringing in him to do us a solid, and he did, and he's the best. Whitney came in and she just owned it too for that part. But it was just like we did a lot of like reaching out to people that we had previously worked with, even like Kerry King from Slayer. I mean, it's because of Slayer. Like, it's like, wouldn't it be funny if you're like the Dave's roadie? You know what I mean? Right. Because Slayer's now over it, and so it's great because he came in, he just had a good time with it. And I also thought it was important because Whitney and Will Forte and people like that are also very good at improv. So when the guys are actually able to go off script and just play themselves and do their things, it was fun to watch all of a sudden them start riffing at each other, or like they would start like going into it a bit more. So you get a really great performance out of that. And I think it's important when you're doing a bit of improv to make sure that you're not just having like a trained actor over here and then someone trying to improv, and then right. It's more fun because they can all just kind of like rip on each other and go back and forth.
Now, hopefully this is not a spoiler, but one of the coolest cameos in the entire movie is Lionel Richie.
No spoiler. No, you're good.
All right, good. I just want to make sure I wasn't ruining anything. But that is one of the greatest cameos, and not only because it is just Lionel Richie, who's on his own just awesome, but the portrayal of himself in the movie is hilarious and fun. So how did that happen? What was discussions like for how he was going to be portrayed? And was there, was it his idea to go in that direction or yours?
That was my idea to go that direction. It was funny because when we got the script from the writers, their Lionel Richie part was in there. We didn't ever plan for that. And so and Dave goes, oh, wait, we got Lionel Richie in here? He goes, I'm friends with Lionel. So he called Lionel Richie and was like, basically like, hey, we want to do this thing. You want to come down? He's like, yeah, brother, I'll come down and do that. So Lionel came down, and he actually did start kind of following the first bit of lines, and then he would kind of do his own thing as he was walking away. In the very last take, I go, because we had already known what we were shooting and what we were doing. I go, hey, Lionel, on this one, this final one, and you can say no if you want, but I just want to ask you, do you mind saying, and I don't know if I can say it on your show, but do you mind
go right ahead for it.
I was like, do you mind just saying that's my fucking song in this? And he was like, I was hoping you'd ask me that. I was really hoping. And that is the one that once he did that take, it was the very last take we did. And once he did that and we called cut, the whole crew erupted in applause. And we're just like, yeah. So we knew it was like, okay, we're going with that one.
I mean, that's one of those just golden moments in film that when you're watching, you're like, oh shit, this is just awesome.
It's always fun in movies though, to see like someone that you see on, you think you see their the way their attitudes are. And like, you see them a certain way. And then, when you see it like that, you're like, it kind of throws you off. Like, whoa, I didn't expect that from Lionel Richie. You know what I mean?
Like it fits all of it because like all the like I said, same. It kind of goes with the theme like David Grohl and Lionel Richie. The whole idea of, just the expectations is just flipped. How could you expect all these guys to be like the nice, friendly guys, but the movie kind of flips them all. And Lionel Richie is like a perfect example of that flip, and it just makes that movie, I think, just that much better.
Oh yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah, it's pretty great. So, you want moments like that. That's what you go for.
So this movie also has just tons of really cool demises in the film. Were they difficult to shoot, and did you have a favorite demise?
We pretty much planned out all of those things pretty heavily, and that was the one thing that's great about this movie is that we had a bit of time to plan it. And, part of it also is that we shot before the pandemic, and then we got shut down during, when the world closed down.
Yeah.
And we came back about 7 months later. So like, it was crazy because we had more time to think about certain things that we didn't get when we came back. And all in all, like, with Tony and the effects guys and everybody that was from Alterian, and, we knew what we were doing. The effects were pre-planned and pre-made and ready to go. So, those were really well thought out effects. My favorite, geez, I mean, it's funny because like, I don't know if like I love them all. I almost really, I love the one you're talking about with the bedroom, but there's one that is a spoiler that no one that was not. It's honestly Pat's. It's probably that, and the story behind that one's good, but I just don't want to spoil it. So it's just like when we did that one, it was so fantastic.
I know which one you're referencing, and it's awesome. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a very cool moment. It's a very cool moment in the film. So
let's just say that there was an explosive charge in that. We had an explosive charge for that. Yeah, it wasn't just what you saw. Like we hit a button and full on scanners
Like I said, there's just I wish I could go into details of each individual, but we can't because for spoilers. But it was so well done. But because you did have COVID in that 7-month gap, was it difficult to get back into rhythm when you guys got back together, or did you guys just snap into place again?
When we got back, we snapped into place because we did a trial run. Because we were one of the first guinea pigs to, when we came back, we were kind of like, okay, how's this going to work? So, the producers set up a plan to while we were getting kind of back into pre-pro, we were doing basically everything over Zooms unless I had to go to the location and figure something out. And it was really we all had to kind of stay away unless we absolutely had to be there. But we did basically stage a run through of how long it would take. We did 1 day of getting the crew in to do the car drive through where you spit in a cup, give it to the person, and then they check your thing, and then you get approved to come to work. And PPE, none of us have been used to wearing masks all day, or face shields, or having major social distance. This is all new to us, and we were kind of one of the guinea pig jobs to do it. Luckily, we did it, and we got through it without any hiccups. Thank God. That would have been disastrous had we had to get shut down again because of the amount of time that we spent not working because of the lockdown. But all in all, once we got back in, the amazing thing is the whole crew that was there before was so excited about coming back to this job because they were having so much fun that everyone was just so into it. So right when we got in, even though the PPE and the new regulations, we jumped right in and went for it, and we had 10-hour days. It took away 2 hours of my day, which was rough. I like 10-hour days as a crew member and a director, but when you're directing, like I said, time is vital to get everything. So 12 hours, you're kind of okay, I got 2 more hours I can actually finish this. Then they chop those 2 hours and you have to make everything happen in 10 hours. So it's there was a lot of learning curves that we had to do because of that, but we did it.
I mean, like I said, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate having the screener that let me watch it. So for the listeners, when is it being released, and where can it be found?
It comes out today, and if you're here in the States, it's all over the place. I mean, check your listings. Honestly, I think it's going all over. And I'd say, do us a favor and go check it out. And it's a silly, fun, happy, fun kill, good, gory, good time. That's what it is.
Is there a sequel on the horizon?
I have ideas of how to make the sequel happen. We just haven't really dove into that yet. And Dave is, we'll see, because I know that they want to get back on tour. So, we'll see how long, or if he wants to even jump back in, because it's a bit of a commitment. This is a commitment. This is 2 years actually in the making.
Yeah. So what is next from you?
Right now, I'm just reading scripts and seeing what the next road takes me. I'm trying to find the right thing. I'm trying to find something maybe a little bit different than the horror comedy if possible, or, just horror or action. I'd love to do an action film. So I'm kind of looking for that. But I'm, if it's a great script, I'm down for it. If it's another horror comedy, I'm down for that, as long as the script is awesome. That's really what it boils down to. So I've read a few good ones now and trying to see which way to go. We'll see.
Well, when the next one's ready to roll, come right back to the show. It's a great pleasure having you, Mr. McDonnell. Yeah. And everyone, watch Studio 666. It's a lot of fun.
Go see it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Have a fantastic day. And hope the movie does extremely well.
I hope so too.
All right.
Thanks. You too. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.